All right. Welcome to week 8 for BEARSKIFILM Fantasy Football. It's me, Dave, and then Richie's here this week. May have a guest kind of popping in halfway through. We'll see about that. Other than that, Richie. Oh, there's Brandon. How's my connection, Richie? You feeling me okay? You hearing me all right?
Your image isn't here. Your image of your
Okay.
face and
Let
movement
me
is
give me
not.
1 second.
Yeah, and let me just tilt this up a little bit. Frame me a little better. Whoa. Hey there. So let's see here. I'm not being streamed right now, am I? Oh, I am. Hello. This is not my doing.
No, sorry, Richie.
Hey.
Back on. And then, yeah, Brandon was able to join us
Hey,
this
Brandon.
week. So nice to see Brandon again.
What's going
We've
on,
missed him on the show for a few weeks, so glad he could find some time to join us this week. And yeah, we'll kind of get started quickly. How was our fantasy week on a review, boys? For me, mine was 2-0. I'm pretty happy with that. Had a good monster week from a few key producers, and then yeah, just on pace for some playoff wins and kind of keep chugging away. How are you guys? How about you, Richie?
Man, I went 2-2. Jaden Reed did not do it for me this past week. Evan Ingram did not do it for me this past week, and I kept Aaron Jones on the bench. That hurt. Deebo Samuel got me 0 points before he left with an injury. It was tough. So
It's a
yeah.
rough week 8 coming up, and it started last night, really, or finished up last night. So, Brandon, how's your fantasy stuff going, man? You giving up on fantasy yet this year, or are you still chugging away?
Well, I'm one this weekend, man. The league that I've been bad in, I'm just getting worse in, and the league that I started out feeling pretty good about, I'm starting to really take control of. So that's I
Nice.
a
You
two did a two quarterback league just for the hell of it. I never done one, so I commissioned one and got 8 guys to do it, and we're doing it for fun, but we're out throwing some cash at it. So that team, my team in that league is just kind of unfairly good. I feel like
Are you in one of your leagues? If you start struggling, do you kind of check out, or are you fight till the bitter end type of guy?
I don't really offer a whole lot of trades because trades don't often get responded to in a lot of leagues I'm in, and I usually just keep hitting the waiver wire. And I do things, man, that I'm sure you guys do, where you don't just like, you got those guys at the top of the transaction trends that you know are going to get you what they're going to get you, like 8 points. You know what I mean? And then you
Yeah.
dive deep in the guys lower in the bottom, and you read situations about like, man, a guy that I really like that hasn't played football yet due to injury, but I do believe we'll see some of the in the second half of this season, is Roman Wilson on the Steelers. And I think if that team can start
Interesting.
to get a passing offense going, Pickens needs some help there, man. A talented player would definitely get some targets on that team.
Interesting call. I
For
honestly forgot Roman Wilson was even a player, and
He's a third
when you
round.
mentioned the
He's
name,
a
I was like,
third
oh
round.
shit.
Yeah, think about this, man. He's a third round pick on a team that like desperately needs help at receiver. You know what I mean? They were
Right.
about to pay Ayuk like $130 million. This Steelers team
Yeah, and then
had that on the table. Like, so Roman
yeah,
Wilson's going to get some opportunities when he's finally healthy to play. He played 5 snaps in a game. I want to see him like he's a guy like Rich mentioned, Jaden Reed, man. He kind of reminds me of that, Swiss Army knife gimmicky player. You can throw him on the side, you can hand him the ball in the backfield. He's a small guy that'll eventually get injured again, but I'm excited to see him play.
and I think that's a great point with Russell Wilson taking over at quarterback. You kind of need that kind of gimmicky, easy yardage, throw him the ball in certain ways type of guy when Justin Fields isn't available. Um,
Well, hell,
for those red zones and yeah,
every quarterback could use that guy, man. That's becoming a thing in the NFL. The Devon A. Chains and Chase Browns, and you know, every team in the league seems to be looking for one of these guys. they don't all use him as much as the other, but it seems like they all want this piece.
I mean, we have one up available for trade. If anybody wants to give us a first-round pick for Velus Jones, he's available.
That's funny.
If everybody's looking, they can have one.
I wonder. They said no to a 4th-round pick before the season started. I wonder now if they wouldn't settle on like a 6th.
I wouldn't be shocked at all. And I think
yeah,
more than likely, just off of today's rumor mill, it was that Nate Davis is literally like moments away.
I'm sorry to cut you off, man. I'm not asking like would Ryan Poles do it, because I think he would in a heartbeat getting anything for Velus Jones. But I'm wondering like if that's how quickly this guy's value, you know what I mean?
1,000%.
You needed a 4th-round pick 7 weeks ago. You know,
no, it's
as far as Hard Knocks showed us, that's what happened. That was 7 weeks ago, and now this guy's a healthy scratch every game.
What about a 4th-round pick?
I think it was a 5th-round pick. I don't want to overcorrect you, but I think it was a 5th-round pick. Either way,
was it a 5th? Yeah, okay, but still,
I agree with you. I think that's just the world we live in and the NFL we live in, where when you lose your driver's seat in a trade negotiation, right? Where Velus Jones was never going to get you much, but I mean, a 5th in training camp, and even if he didn't do much differently, let's say he just never fucked up in weeks 1, 2, 3, or whatever, or looked like an idiot, you probably could have still gotten a 5th. Probably not, though, because that's how the NFL goes. As things shake out, you don't know. The rumor was you had the Vikings offer something for Khalil Herbert before they went for Ty Chandler, and I don't know what Ty Chandler went for. I'd have to go Google that, but I'm sure Khalil Herbert was something around a 5th, and now you lose that whatever you call it, that power pole position, right? That negotiating power by declining Minnesota, and then other teams are going to be like, well, you had an offer here, you declined it, so we're not going to offer you the same thing. We're going to offer you less than that. That's just kind of how this NFL goes. But I mean,
is just to quit on the dynamic that you thought Velus Jones was going to provide. Like this offense has a lot of really good players, but that was a piece they just don't have. Like a guy with wheels like that, man. I mean, Swift has got some pretty good top speed, but he's probably on the downslide in regards to his athleticism. He's a running back that's now been in the league for 5 years, right? But
yeah, I think that's probably why the forecast on Ian Wheeler next year is probably going to be pretty good. I think they would have probably kept him this year if it wasn't for the injury, and we all watch Hard Knocks. I think if he offers that, like,
would be
that 4.3 speed, I think that guy definitely, if his knee heals up nicely, I think that's probably what we're going to see. Dante Pettis, I guess to a certain extent, Lawrence would have been kind of that guy. I think he's more of that like small slot guy you can throw around, but I think we're thinking of more of that like Cordero Patterson light type of guy on the team, right? I think that's what Brandon's alluding to as well. But it's going to be fascinating.
Like Jaden Reed, man. I mean, like the Bears have Swift, who's a running back that can catch the ball, but to have, like I said, this is the thing I'm starting to see more, man, is some of these pass catchers being drawn up plays from the backfield and being successful, man.
I think, unfortunately, and I don't know if the Bears can catch on to this, I think you already have one still on the team, and probably your best wide receiver is DJ Moore. Should be used more like that.
Yeah, and Adunze, anytime they've done it, man, has done it really well. You notice that? The guy's been given like 3 wide receiver reverses and taken 2 of them for like 15+ yards. Never saw
Yeah, I think Odunze's a year away from just feeling the offense and those like little angles out to be effective at that in the NFL. Some guys naturally take to it, but I think this is part of the problem of training camp and what this turned into a Bear show. Of like what we were all talking about with Odunze is like, take him off of punts. Like, why are you even wasting his time in practice with punt returns? That's just wasting his time. Why are you throwing him in the slot when Keenan Allen's clearly going to be your slot all year long? Like, he should be your 2.
I think Odunze is the biggest threat the Bears have on the outside, man.
Oh, yeah, he's clearly your X. He is your X receiver. It's what he needs to be used.
Behind you, but Odunze can catch the ball over you.
In certain formations, Odunze should be the number 1 target in terms of just go route for Odunze, go that side. DJ Moore kind of like wheeling around the backfield like they did on that Cole Kmet double fake screen. They screened one way to DJ, one way to Swift, and then you hit Kmet over the middle. That's kind of what it ended up being. So I'm with you there, man. I just think it's going to be interesting to see what the Bears do. That's a whole separate issue, but I did love. I'm a fan of this Pittsburgh thing and what's going on. I did win a couple of probably my best bet of the year on George Pickens scoring a touchdown on Sunday. I think I woke up the neighborhood, so winning a couple.
George Pickens and Russell Wilson's willing to just chuck it up to him. Like, I'm not sure if George Pickens has had that before, but yeah, Pickens can win the one-on-one multiple times. The defender's arm knocked the ball out of his hands, and he just grabs it again. Like, I think this is amazing.
That's all you needed.
In terms of fantasy, that team that I have that I really like, I have Godwin, and that looks like it's a wrap. I mean, I don't know what that injury is. I don't know if
it's like he needs reconstruction on his knee or something.
Yeah, I didn't really see it. Did his ankle turn around at one angle of the video that I saw?
All I've heard is it's gross. I wasn't watching the game, but I have Godwin on the team. It's looking like a season ender. But I have Pickens. I have Pickens just sitting on the bench. I've never plugged him in. I think once I did, and he actually had a decent game. But now the guy is about to probably have a little more production. I'm just guessing. What you saw on Sunday, man, I don't think is I think that's what Russell Wilson's kind of going to be. I really do. I think he's going to be 200 passing yards and a touchdown passing or a touchdown passing and rushing or 2 passing. You know what I mean?
I really think that's what Mike Tomlin wanted. That was the plan. That was part of the reason I made that bet on Sunday was up to now, George Pickens had 0 touchdowns and about 250 yards in the season. And I know if I know football, literally at one point during that week in that meeting room, Mike Tomlin and Russell Wilson were talking to each other like, hey, dude, you just need to get George involved. You know he's a little crazy. For him to stay engaged in the game, for him to feel like he's part of the game plan. Like, I don't care. Give him like 4 jump balls at least in the first half and just see what happens. This way he stays involved. He feels like the ball might come to him. He'll block better on running plays, stuff like that. So that's just kind of
this to defend Mike, because Mike Tomlin's always just about right, man. But if there's a receiver in the NFL you're going to do that with, this is probably your guy, dude. George Pickens is a fucking monster in contested catches. Like, go up and get it kind of guy. So I more than implore Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, whoever's playing quarterback on that team, to give this guy a chance, man. At least give him a chance on a ball.
I'm with you. Yeah. Brandon, I don't want to – I know you can't – sorry, real quick. I know you can't stay too long, so I don't want to waste too much time talking about side stuff. I do want to get some fantasy football with you as well. And our chat's usually a little bit more engaged lately with our trade questions, but I have one, guys, because I've been offered a trade that I'm debating on. And I need your guys' help to tell me to not do it or to do it. So this is a dynasty keeper league. Okay. Mm-hmm. I was offered 2 separate trades. To preface this, I am quite thin at running back. My running backs are, as it stands, James Cook and Saquon at 1 and 2. Okay. Every flex position, I usually flex in my wide receivers because I'm pretty thick there. And then my backup running backs right now are Justice Hill, Jalen Warren, and Zach Charbonnet. So I really am riding on flyers for touchdowns in any type of long-term situation, or I do what our advice is. And Brandon, we missed you while we were talking about this. Dude, we could not have been more right about Tank Bigsby. We could not have been more right about Roschon Johnson. We could not have been more right about Roschon Johnson kind of coming out, or other guys. Like we were saying, like, don't trade for these guys. Like, take these backups for often injured running backs and ride those guys out.
I think I said Ray Davis on the Bills.
You did say Ray Davis, and well, how was that? Yesterday or last Sunday, he had an incredible game. So this is kind of what we were talking about.
That is now a 2-headed machine, the same as Detroit, man.
Exactly. And so
and Davis start tearing people apart. That's what
we were saying.
A buddy of mine said it. It's scary that team's a running team with Josh Allen as quarterback.
I know. Dude, I mean, interception.
We hit on all those pickups.
We hit on all of them, man. This is good advice. I felt very validated about those.
You said fantasy advice. Didn't he have 2 touchdowns that week?
He did. And then I think the week after it was Tank Bigsby starting over Travis Etienne, even though he was a injury kind of thing. You could clearly tell it was just more of a, dude, you just need to sit down.
Yeah, I think a few running backs in the NFL, man, in regards to your fantasy teams, guys, you start, David's been right about, he's been calling about this for weeks. A few of the running back teeter-totters are starting to tilt one way, you know what I mean? Like, it looks like Rashad White played well last night, but it looks like I don't know if I trust anybody in that backfield in fantasy. And I 100% agree. If you have Bigsby, I think you're going to be better off than you would if you have ETN.
100%. I have ETN in one team, and I'm
Oh,
pissed
and
because I know he's basically useless.
And I don't know if anyone owns Ezekiel Elliott. You probably don't, but Rico Dotto is basically taking over there, and he's not doing much either. So don't touch it back in that.
You know, but at the end of the day, sometimes when you just need to start 2 running backs per week, making sure that that guy is the starter that's going to get 15 carries, I feel comfortable starting those guys almost week to week towards the end of the year. So here's my trade that I've been offered. It is a dynasty keeper league. I am thin at running back. I have been offered 2 separate trades for Saquon Barkley for some reason. I don't know why. He's probably just because he's the best fantasy running back this year. One is a straight up next year's first for Saquon Barkley. I would come out of the draft with 2 first-round picks. I still want to win this year, so I instantly said no to that one. The second one got me thinking. It is a second-round pick and DeAndre Swift for Saquon Barkley. And I have left that lingering for about 4 days thinking about yes or no.
I mean, your production is going to go down. Say DeAndre Swift is awesome. He's awesome, but I don't think he's going to get anywhere near the touchdowns that Saquon Barkley gets. DeAndre Swift is going to be a quality fantasy player for the remainder of the year, but Saquon Barkley, man, could finish 3rd or 4th in regards to total touchdowns all year. I don't know that Swift is in that same field. I'd say he's probably like, I don't know, 11th or 12th. But
Swift looked really good the last couple weeks.
The Bears need Swift. Swift needs to do well for the Bears to do well. I firmly believe this now. Like, their offense is really anchored around that player. He's the most explosive player in the Bears backfield by far. Roschon's a hell of a goal line runner, but you want somebody to break a play for you. This guy's the guy's going to do it. So I think he's a really good player, man. I think that trade with a second-round pick is definitely worth thinking about. I don't think you're losing. I don't know how much production. Does anybody know the total points between the 2 players so far in the season?
I was just about to look that up as you mentioned that, so I'm going to look that up.
Because I would use points to kind of project where they finish. And Rich is right. Swift is going to be more involved.
I'll give you the exact rankings. He's the 16th ranked running back right now. 57th overall player, DeAndre Swift. 15.13 points per game on average for the season. Saquon is shockingly the number 3 running back. I thought he would be number 1 easy with a bullet.
Well, Henry's number 1, I think.
Oh, yeah. Duh. Yeah, that's obvious. 10th overall fantasy player, and he's a 22.02 points per game. So I'd be losing 7 points per game, give or take, this year. And I'd get a second-round pick for next year's fantasy football draft.
Well,
so I'd be going in.
Here's what's up.
You said
with a 1-2-2.
You said DeAndre Swift, those point average is 15, but if you eliminate the first really 3 weeks, man, and look at the last 3 weeks where the Bears have actually learned how to use, like Shane Waldron figured it out, he's kind of a fantasy monster, man. I mean, he's averaging 1 touchdown a game. He's averaging 4 receptions a game, and he's averaging around 80 yards rushing a game, so over 100 all-purpose yards. I mean,
here's the thing, though. So the Bears have a couple more easy games. It's going to drive up Swift's value, you know. I don't think this trade is going to be offered in a week or 2 when he's going to get another couple 20-point games. And I think when we hit that second half of the schedule with a tougher lineup, I would rely on him for 15 points a game because I don't think the Bears offense is going to run as well in that second half of the season, frankly. So
I'm with you. My other part is
I can't bring myself to agree with that, man, because I understand why any Bears fan would think the way that you're thinking, Rich. But I don't think this offense at any point of this season is going to take a step back. It's not going to regress no matter who the I think this offense is growing every week, and Shane Waldron is figuring out the pieces that he has more and more. And now you've seen Rome Odunze have his day, Cole Kmet have his day, Keenan Allen have his day, DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift. I think the more that Caleb, this is the difference, and a Bears fan who had the opinion a year ago from now, and being myself, Caleb Williams is different. This is different. This isn't. It's not like, oh, once they start to play these good teams. I agree. I would say that Caleb Williams is going to have a game now and again as a rookie where you're going to be like, damn, like 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 150 yards. I think those are coming, but I still believe this Bears offense continues to tear people to shreds. I really do think that. There's just what were we all excited about over the offseason? What's the point of getting excited over DeAndre Swift and DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and Cole Kmet and all these guys and all these guys on the same offense with Caleb Williams? We don't think it's something that's sustainable while playing good teams or playing our division. That's the point. Is this guy's different?
Brandon, you are.
I feel you.
You are much more ready to be hurt again. I am not there yet. I have not opened my heart. I have not opened my heart
so
wide for the Bears.
I don't think. Well, it depends upon what your expectation. I'm not going to be hurt because I think I want the Bears to make the playoffs. If they don't, it's not the end of the world. I think they're competing for a Super Bowl by next season, regardless of how this season ends, because they have 8 draft picks and they don't have too many holes, man. So this is a team but Caleb Williams, guys, is the difference. He's about. Have you guys seen the on pace for Bears rookie records, quarterback rookie records? He is going to destroy these in like 2 weeks. He's going to pass just about all of them.
I have a feeling Brandon is going with go for the trade.
I don't know. I've never done a fantasy league, man, where you have where you can trade draft picks. So I'm not too familiar with that. If a second round pick is as valuable as it is in the NFL and a fantasy draft, then yeah.
If anything more. So then let's say next year I go into my fantasy draft and I get my snake. I snake my picks and then I also take his and I have 3 players in the top 2 rounds.
So, I mean, I think DeAndre Swift, like I said, he's going to produce less than Saquon Barkley for sure. I don't know if
Richie, talk me off the ledge. I'm about to hit accept.
No, don't hit accept. Well, hang on. Just hang on. Here's what I'm expecting, man. Caleb Williams is different, okay? But, man, we passed up a great era of quarterbacks, and I keep comparing them to Aaron Rodgers because they do have some similarities in how they play. I think DeAndre Swift, when the Bears hit that second half of the season, he's going to produce like Aaron Jones did. Like peak Aaron Jones, I think that's what DeAndre Swift is going to produce like. And I also thought about their injury history, but they both have injury history, Barkley and Swift, so that's kind of a push to me in my head. But yeah, I expect let's say the Bears offense runs at peak. Waldron gets the Bears offense to run at peak, which I have faith in Waldron because, man, he dealt with some shit in Seattle. That's what I know. And so I think that he can get it up to speed. I just think DeAndre Swift is going to produce like Aaron Jones that second half of the season at best. Like prime Aaron Jones a couple years ago, which is pretty good.
Aaron Jones was outrageously good.
Mm-hmm. You're not helping your negative cause here, George.
He was always like the number 8th best running back like in the league. He never really exceeded that. He's good.
Dude, that in a second round pick I'll take all day though.
Okay, then do that.
Yeah.
Do it.
No, I think if anything
Aaron Jones though had a season I think with 1,000 yards rushing and close to 1,000 yards receiving in the same season.
Hang on, David.
I believe.
See if you can get him to throw in a 6th round. It's a dynasty. Is there a 6th round in your dynasty drafts or no?
Oh yeah. Yep.
We're 15. Just see. Just to like.
I might sweeten the pot a little or something, but I think it's a pretty.
He had almost 500 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing in 2019. I remember him being like, I think he was like the 2nd ranked running back in football that year. Man, he went off.
For me, he was like 3rd round or maybe 2nd round if I couldn't find anything better in the draft every year, which is good. That's good, okay? But Saquon is first every year.
No,
okay?
I get it. I'm also looking at ADP, injury history, and all that kind of stuff. Because for Richie to say they're going to slam into a wall, I agree. That's a total fact. They're like that. But somebody's going to touch the ball. The offense is still going to chug, and it might be DeAndre Swift. And they're both a 50-50 chance of getting hurt. I would say Saquon's probably more likely to get hurt, if anything, than DeAndre Swift at this point, just based on their uses in their offenses. So I'm looking future proofing, and also ADP. I think DeAndre Swift in this draft in particular, I looked at it. DeAndre Swift went in the 2nd round, 9th pick. That's not far off from where I got Saquon 1st round, 12th pick. So these are 9 picks apart, and I get a whole 2nd rounder out of it. So I get what you're saying, but
But here's another thing about DeAndre Swift. I had him I believe, the last 2 seasons, and he tends to wane a little bit later into the season. You know,
That's
he
a
gets
good
nicked
point.
up. You know, he really does get
Mm.
nicked up. So, like,
Here's
I personally, I would hold on to Barkley, but that's also because I'm pretty conservative. Okay, and you're
Here's-
higher on Swift than I am, which is
well,
which is
I'm
fine.
saying
If you accept the
in
trade,
regards to the Bears, I own Caleb Williams in fantasy in that 2-quarterback league, and I feel pretty damn good about making him a starter for the remainder of the season. Like when I
hell
see
yeah.
when I see the
Oh, yeah.
Vikings on the schedule, I'm not going to take Caleb Williams out. And I
Yeah.
think the Bears offense, I think Caleb Williams is going to continue to produce for me in fantasy, and I think the Bears offense is going to have some really, really, really good weeks, and then some weeks where they, probably 18 to 22 points. But who's the number one fantasy player to own on that Bears offense in your guys' mind? Who's the most?
Caleb or DeAndre.
Caleb or
I'd
DeAndre.
say Swift. I think you know what you're getting out of Swift week by week moving forward,
Awesome.
man. I don't know.
All right, just remember he's gonna wane towards the end of the season. Like,
Well, thank you
I
guys.
feel
That
confident about
didn't help me at all.
You know what you need, though,
So
man? You need to. You said you're stacked at receiver, so I guess I wouldn't trade Barkley anyways. Here, I'll help you out. Refuse that
that second
trade.
neuse year
Picks or
is
no
pretty
pick.
valuable.
Pick or no pick, and tell somebody if they want anybody off your team, it's from your thick. You use the word thick, your thick receiving core, and not from your already thin running backs.
yeah.
You know,
I just wanted to entertain it because I saw that trade pop up and I was like, you know what, this would be a great topic for the show, rather than just declining
I
it.
like
So,
Swift a lot moving forward, man. But Saquon's going to be better. I mean, I believe that.
Here-
for sure.
Swift is
All
how old?
right, 26.
All right,
I
he's
think
good
they're
for a
about the
couple
same
years
age.
yet. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
him and I literally for longevity. I think they're gonna have the same shelf.
Oh, I forgot to mention this part. I can't keep either Saquon or DeAndre into next season. It's a keeper league in the sense of anybody. I can keep 3 players from my fantasy team drafted after round 5 for the future. So it's not like a permanent. I haven't had Saquon. I had to draft Saquon this year. The
Well, I don't
keepers
think-
are you
Okay.
get 3
I
of
don't
them.
think that would have affected anything in my view, anyways.
It does.
I agree.
It does for
I-
me.
Swift
In
and
that case,
Saquon,
I would pick. I would take Swift then. I would take the latter part of that trade. I was assuming you'd be able to hold on to Barkley next year and the year after.
No. That's more about the future proofing of that is the second round pick, and then the current thing is, do I trust Saquon or do I trust Swift to help me to a championship this year still instead of Saquon?
Have
Because
you
I'm
counted-
still like,
Have you
I'm
counted
still-
the receiver on that trade? I would.
no, I can. I haven't entertained anything at receiver this year. Nobody's offered, but I'm kind of just letting it. The other part of my receiving core at this point is DK Metcalf injured, Chris Olave injured, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. I'm stuck with both. I got Marvin Harrison still. So like I said, I think that's a goddamn good ass 1 through 6. So I do need to, get through there. But yeah, I'll reach out to you guys, see how that goes. Let's do some quick, just maybe some sleeper starters. I had some notes taken. I love the NFL. It sucks when people get injured, but it makes it that much more fucking interesting. I had just a few names written down still. Jaden Daniels, injured. Deshaun Watson, injured for the year. Jamison Williams, suspended 2 games. Chris Godwin, out for the year. Mike Evans, at least out till week 11, coach said. And Juju Smith-Schuster, I don't know how long-term he's hurt, but it looked serious. And I had a good, interesting thought on fantasy advice. If Cooper Kupp is a buy low target, somebody needs to go buy Cooper Kupp right now. Because it sounds, and I saw reports a lot today, that the Rams are going to be wholesale sellers.
Wow.
I saw that today 3 separate times, that the Rams are, one of them might have been fake, which I believe, but I think they're going to get absolutely pummeled by the Vikings this week, which would put them at 2-5 the year. Sean McVay's been on the cusp of retiring for years anyway. Cooper Kupp's 32, I want to say. And the second rumor I saw was for like Matt Stafford to go, but I don't see that one happening.
Wow.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that Cooper Kupp? Because I think that with the looming trade, and even if not, I think he's going to come back and do really well. I think he is one of the best buy low targets in week 8 this year so far.
So I think the thought would be they sell Cooper Kupp and they hold on to Puka for the future because he's super young, right?
Yep. And Cooper probably ends up with like Kansas City or whatever.
When you say wholesale, who else is moving other than Cooper Kupp, do you think?
The Matthew Stafford one makes sense to me. I don't know if because he only makes sense to retire this year and ride it out with LA and Sean McVay and him ride off into the sunset together. Or I think it does make sense for Matt Stafford to get traded because his contract's not expiring. I think he's also like 37. He's injury prone. And he's like the best version of Aaron Rodgers and what the Jets tried to do this year. So I would say like him on Minnesota would be fucking awesome. Go back to like Minnesota, him on
wait, but if he went to Miami, I think. But I don't think Stafford's getting traded.
Miami. I don't either. I thought, like I said, I think that one was much more of a stupid NFL rumor on Twitter kind of thing. But I don't think it's crazy, especially if they go 2-5 or 2-6 by week 9, or 2-6 or 2-7 by week 8 or 9.
Cooper Kupp and Adam Thielen will probably both be traded. I could see that happening.
I would love that, Adam Thielen. I think what the crazy part about that market is, and we had this written down last week, of whoever had Amari Cooper, lucky for you. I said Devontae Adams won't do shit and nailed that one because the Jets suck and they will suck, and Rodgers is over the hill. And Richie was pretty convinced last week that team's going to be a big step up with Devontae Adams. I disagreed. I was adamant about that, and I thought that Devontae Adams being added to the Jets will do nothing. And I'm going to stand by that till the end of the year. I don't think it's going to do anything for them. I think that was one of the dumbest trades. I think that set a franchise back 5 years.
Would they trade for Adams again?
A
second round.
It's yeah.
It's a conditional second based on playing time, which will 1,000% being a second.
Yeah. They just got him last week and they were just trying to work him in. It's going to take just a little time to get assimilated in there, but I think he's still going to have some good games this year. So
for sure he will. I just don't think it'll matter, and especially considering the Jets being 2-5 at this point, worse record than goddamn
for fantasy
Miami.
Football though. That matters.
Yeah, if I owned him in fantasy, I'd feel a little better today than I did a couple weeks ago.
Sure. Yeah. Those were just kind of my thoughts on initial, just suspensions, trade possibilities, and stuff like that. I've wrote down a few more notes about just kind of where the fantasy landscape is. I don't think we'll have Brandon long enough to do a game by game. Brandon, I don't know if you've tuned into any of our shows the last few weeks. We kind of switched it up to kind of just going through game by game matchups and just kind of, a positive, a negative fantasy wise in that game. It kind of helps us cruise the show along a little quicker. I don't know how much longer we have you. But if you have any thoughts, I just have some thoughts that I think the Texans offense is not good. I think they're going to continue to struggle. I think most of those players are going to be a sit down in the sense of sit down. Stephon Diggs is a start. I think Joe Mixon's a start. Everybody else is probably a sit 'em moving forward. And part of last week's comments and startums and sit-ems, Amari Cooper is going to drastically change the way that the Buffalo offense is going to run. And I think Keon Coleman is going to probably be the negative beneficiary of the Amari Cooper trade now, because I think Rashid Shaheed. Help me out, guys.
Rashid Shaheed.
Khalil Shakir.
Okay. Sorry.
Maybe that's more similar names than maybe that's just me. Khalil Shakir, Rashid Shaheed sounds similar in my head. So I think Khalil Shakir is going to still benefit from Amari Cooper being there. I think Keon Coleman might be the negative hit on that team for that.
I think Khalil Shakir is going to move into the slot, which is where he should play.
Yeah,
they've been forced to use him just about everywhere. I think he should play the slot. Keon Coleman, man, with the addition,
he looked good.
Looked really good. Looked the best he's ever looked. And I personally believe, I think he's a good player, but I do believe that was the benefit of being the guy who wasn't taken so seriously. You know what I mean? I really do. Like, Amari Cooper is going to be the person on this off, because now every every team that's going to play the Bills is thinking what you just said, Dave. Like this guy is going to be the factor. You know, I mean, he's the X factor now in this offense because Josh Allen can rely on. But I think Keon Coleman for sure is going to get the lesser of DBs, and I think he's still 6'4", like 215. This is a kid that can. I think will eventually do some special things, man. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened towards the end of his rookie year. I really liked him at Florida State for sure. Like if I thought the Bears were gonna like trade back and get some picks and still draft a receiver, Coleman was one of the names that I was kind of hoping for sure. Brian Thomas, Keon Coleman, those were two guys. If the Bears were going to take a receiver in the late teens if they had traded back, those are the names that I was thinking.
Yeah, I guess I'm not following my usual logic for this team that I thought for other teams, right? As I guess you could apply the same logic with what Richie was thinking with the Jets, opening up for Garrett Wilson and, you know, Alan Lazard still being a big target because of this guy taking some of that attention away. I guess that makes more sense for the Buffalo Bills with Amari Cooper. I just love that trade. I think Amari Cooper is one of the best fits.
It makes sense for Josh Allen because, you know, I mean, let's be honest, we're talking about probably the second best player in football. An offense like that, I don't see like a one guy gets the target share. I see Josh Allen getting everybody involved, including Keon Coleman. The guy that's really surprised me, man, is Dalton Kincaid. If you want to talk about fantasy, that's a guy I'm leaving on my bench until I see something.
Yeah. Drove me nuts. What a stupid trade up for a first-round pick. What an idiot move. Who the hell? I thought of it when I saw the trade in Buffalo, and that was the year we had 3 tight ends go that were like basically all the same guy, and I think that was the guy on the Michael Mayer. It was Michael Mayer, Luke Musgrave, and Dalton Kincaid were all like those top 3 tight ends that draft, and you could have taken either one of them and all been happy, and they all have the exact same career right now, which is basically irrelevant. Luke Musgrave is probably the best out of those guys, and I think that might be a byproduct of being a Packer rather than anything. And then Michael Mayer is just irrelevant.
And the tight end, the Packers took second, and that they took it because they took Musgrave, I think, in the second, right?
Right.
And then they took Kraft.
That was the
fifth. And in regards to fantasy, man, that's the guy I'd roll with if I'm looking at the Packers tight ends for like a fantasy plug and play for sure.
Exactly. So, yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I don't know if we'll have time to kind of go through these one by one, but any comments from you, Brandon? I don't know how are you on time? I don't want to hold you too long.
Yeah, I'm good. I got probably about another 10, 15 in me now.
Okay. Let's kind of power through some games and just, if you guys don't have any major comments to add or anything like that, we can just kind of flip through. Bears Commanders. My take is Bears offense is probably going to do pretty well. Nobody on the Commanders, especially if Daniels is out, is probably worth starting other than Brian Robinson, as we, you know, kind of love Brian Robinson. Any comments from you guys on that kind of fantasy outlook for that game?
Well, this is a game that I really love DJ Moore just because of what happened last year with the Commanders. Justin Fields wasn't even really throwing them downfield passes. He was throwing them screens, and Moore was just torching his team. I would, in terms of fantasy, if you're looking at which wide receiver on the Bears has it this week, because it seems like it's going to be somebody different week by week, I'm thinking DJ Moore has his for sure. And then,
good call.
And then he hasn't really been too involved, man. But if it is Mariota, I would expect to start to see Ekeler get a little more involved in this Washington offense. It's a guy who's always been used as kind of like an insurance piece for quarterbacks that are in trouble behind some sketchy offensive lines, especially. But yeah, I think Ekeler is a guy that I would keep my eye on moving forward if Daniels is no longer able to play.
For sure. Richie, anything to add?
Yeah, man, I think McLaurin had some good games. I think he's going to have a more mediocre game against the Bears. I would count on him for like 10 or 12 points. That's just my take on it.
Yeah, I think there's always a go-to receiver, especially with backup quarterbacks, and you got to just feed the guy just to give you some stats. So if anybody's going to do it, it's Terry McLaurin. Richie, I'll give you the lollipop of the day. This is probably the easiest one. I want you to start it just because you got stuck with the Bears Commanders. Vikings Rams.
Shoot. Probably Aaron Jones if he's playing. Sam Darnold. I feel good about the Vikings in general. Justin Jefferson I mean, you can't not start him, right? As for the Rams, Williams is probably, let me see here. I think Williams is probably going to do it again this week. So, yeah.
My take on that one, just because start everybody on the Vikings. This is the Los Angeles Rams we're talking about. They're absolutely god awful. The Vikings have proven at this point just to be so well coached against inferior opponents and then being able to keep up against adequate opponents. Jalen Naylor, if he's available in your league, I say take him right now. I see him being probably a better end of the year receiver than Jordan Addison at this point and at this rate. I think he just fits in well with that scheme. Jordan Addison's still recovering, and he's a Jordan Addison injury away from being the number 2 receiver on the Vikings, where Sam Darnold already has 12 goddamn touchdowns for some reason. And yeah, like you said, Aaron Jones, just start him. On the Rams side, sit everybody other than Kyron Williams.
Hawkinson might come back this week. If not this week, then it's next week. So just something to keep an eye on if you don't see if he's on a waiver in your leagues. So, yeah.
If he wasn't stashed, yeah, that's a good call. Brandon, anything to add on that? Maybe from the Rams side or anything on the Vikings?
I was just about to say the same thing Rich just said in regards to Hawkinson. But no, yeah, the Rams, I like Kyron Williams. Without Nakua, without Kupp, none of these guys against any defense they've played has stepped up and become that guy, whether it's Whittington or Robinson or Parkinson. None of these guys have played well enough to own in fantasy, and I don't think that starts against Minnesota.
I agree. Eagles, Bengals. Brandon, you want to break us down on that one? That's a really interesting one. Some juicy.
Well, I was having a conversation today. I never got an answer. Is AJ Brown back?
Officially? That's a good question.
He caught 5 passes for 89 yards and a touchdown against the Giants. So AJ Brown, he looks pretty back. He's been back for 2 weeks.
He did play last week. Okay, I didn't get a chance.
And the week before.
If the Bears bye week, man, I kind of chill out on how much football I get involved in. But
yeah, I know we all just hang out with our families and stuff.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's literally what I was doing. But so yeah, AJ Brown's obviously. I mean, it's stupid to even say at this point, guys. If you have AJ Brown on your team, don't ever bench him. But I think Devontae Smith and AJ Brown could both have really good games. It never seems to be a thing on the Eagles, but this Cincinnati Bengals team is pretty bad, man. This defense is pretty bad. I think the Bengals offense is still a really good unit. I just don't think they're going to be able to keep up with the woes and faults of their defense. So I do still think Burrow, Chase, Higgins do their thing. I think Chase Brown continues to get involved, man. He's kind of slowly getting more and more involved in this offense. I could see him finishing with 60 yards and a touchdown or something. But I'd say A.J. Brown on the Eagles is your guy for sure. Obviously Barkley. And then on the Bengals, you can probably start just about anybody, guys, if you got somebody on that Bengals team. Unless it's
one of my calls, and I'm going to start fishing through my fantasy leagues. I'm going to pick up on Chase Brown. I think he's starting to clearly show that he's the number 1 guy over him and Zach Moss, and that I think moving down the line, I think we were talking about how some of these bell cow or running back situations are kind of starting to be split up, or some guys are starting to become the main guy or split the guy. I think Chase Brown is clearly one of the best examples of becoming the main guy in a running back by committee kind of start up to the year.
His career has been parallel to Devon A-Chain, right?
I mean, pretty much, yeah. Just an explosive guy with not a lot of just usually split backfield, kind of sharing the load type of situation. But Joe Burrow's on fire. I think anybody on the Cincinnati team you can start. Even we were talking about Andre Iasovis as some of the guy that you might need to stash if you need some depth down the line at the end of the year. Because I think as much as I hate Cincinnati, and you guys know my take on Cincinnati, and they suck, and they're gonna suck, and there's gonna be some hiccups here. This is a toss-up game. Cincinnati's favored by 3 points at home, which basically means it's an even matchup. I look at these teams as almost identical. It's just this really talented, shitty, motivated mess of teams, and it's just going to be an absolute moron fight watching that game. So
Well,
yeah,
and
I
I
don't
say
know.
this, man, it's a bunch of young, really young rookies on this Philly secondary that need to just
Too.
it needs to click, man, and it hasn't yet. But there will be probably a game close to the end of this season where you start to see those guys play, man.
Yeah, it just feels like such a 3-3 matchup against a 3-3 team. It's just kind of I don't like this team. Skipping a few games just because we're gonna kind of cut down on time. I think a Titans Lions game is we're just gonna state the obvious. Start the Lions, sit the Titans. I don't think we need to hash that one over too much.
Yeah. If you're thinking about starting Tony Pollard, reconsider.
That Titans defense, though, has disrupted a lot of quality offenses in the NFL so far, man. They're
I do agree, but I don't think we're going to be given any advice to sit Amon Ra or anything.
no, and it hits stride. But I was for half there, guys. I was thinking, are the Bills about to fucking dump one to the Titans?
Right.
I mean,
And they did. They got blown out.
Yeah.
The only thing I could add to Detroit is honestly go get Tim Patrick if you need a wide receiver with Jameson Williams suspension coming. I think that guy is just kind of not long for Detroit. I think he's going to be like in and out of the league. He's going to end up being like some sort of, I don't know, Jacoby Jones type situation where he's just going to bounce around teams because he's fast and can run straight. I think Detroit's going to get sick of his shit pretty soon. Gambling suspensions, injuries, now a PED suspension. Like, get your shit together, man. You're on the best team in the NFC.
We should hash out, man. There's a lot of wide receivers in fantasy. And I work with a guy who's pretty interested in football. He does a lot of gambling. He's in fantasy, but he doesn't watch, like, live and breathe it like me and you guys. Like, there's some running or some wide receivers that are about to step in for some roles that people aren't aware of. That I think names like you just said one of them for sure, man. I think Patrick's. I texted about him today to a group of buddies in the group text. He's about to start. I mean, he's going to be a fantasy option moving forward, at least for like your flex. If you need like a 13-pointer, I think he'll be there. Jalen McMillan, the kid drafted out of Washington to Tampa Bay, is, I think, a better shape for taking over for Godwin than Sterling Shepard is. And then
Interesting.
Who else was injured? There's Jawan Jennings. Back to this, man, guys. That's somebody I would own. Ayuk's done for the year. We still don't. Debo's in the hospital. Who knows what's going to happen? Ricky Pearsall.
Pneumonia. He's getting his lungs pumped today.
Ricky Pearsall just came back from getting shot. It's going to take time for that to start working, I think. Kittle looks like he's in trouble. Jawan Jennings is a guy I would own in fantasy. And there actually is one more, man. I forget. There's another situation where a receiver suffered a major injury.
I don't think it's a major injury. I don't think Zay Flowers got hurt, but I'd still go get Rashad Bateman as one of those guys that we're kind of lumping into that category.
Oh, yeah.
Rashad Bateman is on every statistical metric basically better than Zay Flowers, and Zay Flowers has so much more attention on him this year in terms of like being a fantasy darling, because I'm just looking over the next game I was going to kind of skip is Ravens-Browns, but right now I think
the Browns is the other team I'm thinking, man. Jameis Winston is going to play for the remainder of this season, guys. Sorry to cut you off, man. He's going to play for the remainder of the season, and they just traded Amari Cooper. So I forget the kid's name.
Jerry Jeudy.
Stillwell or something. No, Jerry Judy's gone. They traded him before the season started. So now that
Jerry Jeudy went from the Browns to the Browns.
He's on the Browns. Yeah, and then you have Njoku, and then I think they're plugging a kid in the starting role. His name's like Stillwell or something. I think he's a young player. Anybody know?
Wide receiver?
Tillman?
Yeah.
Cedric Tillman.
Tillman, yes. That's so,
I was high on him coming out of his draft.
That's a guy that I would look at in fantasy if you're in trouble, man, for sure. These are all guys. Jalen McMillan, Tillman. All these guys are all guys. Jawan Jennings, guys that I would be aware of at least. Put on your watch list for sure.
And I think Rashad Bateman is probably going to be free in most leagues right now too. So, so Ravens-Browns, I don't think we need to add too much to that. My key one guy there is, I think we touched on that, is Brandon said Cedric Tillman. I'm a Rashad Bateman guy. Lions, Titans, we can skip. This one's a pretty good one on one side. The other side's not so interesting. Cardinals, Dolphins. I think the Cardinals are kind of down sloping. I think they had a hot start. I think Kyler Murray is really your major focus there. I have Kyler Murray. I'm never going to bench him because I think he's just good for 2 touchdowns, 1 throwing, 1 passing every day. other than that, man, I don't feel great about starving Marvin anymore. I think James Conner is probably a pretty good start. And then on the Dolphins side, I don't really see any upside or any improvement. I think that team is at an absolute dumpster fire. That might be one of the top 5 picks in the draft.
Check it out, though. Tua's designated for return. So.
And in 2 weeks, he'll be designated for another concussion.
Or a grave.
Yeah.
Or designated for retirement. Let's not be so grim here.
I'm not trying to speak. We wish no harm upon Tua. We hope he's happy.
No, I just think I think it's a fucking joke.
I mean, the guy's got to start to concern himself with like his family and shit.
I'm also just like, I can't stand when we hear about player safety in the NFL.
If he gets one more, that's a wrap, dude. Right? I mean,
like,
we were saying that in the last one, right? Like,
I truly can't fucking comprehend the NFL not just like taking the helmet away and be like, dude, we can't have you die on TV. It's gonna be really bad for our brand.
Yeah, or have this disease that these play, whatever it's this I forget what it's called now, man. The post-football
CTE.
CTE, yeah. I mean, it's not worth it, bro. It's not worth it.
No.
The guys made a good amount of money.
We got our first chat. Trade Jordan Mason for David Montgomery. Yep.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Yep. Then nothing else needs to be added. It's not even like a conversation piece. It's yup. Like now. Hit yes before he changes his mind.
I have Monty on the team. Both those lines running backs are getting it done in fantasy, man. They both have 300+ yards on the season.
Yeah. Hit yes before the guy accidentally realizes he made
before the guy watches this.
Yeah, he's like, fucking cancel. Anybody want to comment on Jets Patriots? You guys know how I feel about the Jets, but go for it.
I think if you get a quarterback on by and you're in like maybe a 2-quarterback league, you're deep, man. I think Drake May might be a good plug and play. Keep moving forward. I mean, he doesn't look like he's the Patriots ever contending, but he also looks like he understands. He gets it already. Like, and he's going to take advantage. He's going to take advantage of those late games where the defense starts playing prevent, and Drake May just gets to pick you apart down the field for sure.
Yeah, Drake May was a good plug and play for a 2-team league that I'm helping out with last week. He put up like 19 points. That's okay for a 2 QB league where you're kind of QB thirsty. So and Drake May,
you're just filling in for week 19. It's good.
And I think his trajectory is upwards. So yeah.
I also say if you're struggling for tight end, go grab Hunter Henry because
I plugged him in this week on that 2-quarterback league.
Yeah, a rookie quarterback's best friend is a nice tight end, and he's going to be relying on that guy.
I had Cole Kmet, he was on bye, and I plugged in Henry, and he had 17 points.
Gotcha. Bryson also said he might have to also give one more player with Jordan Mason though, like Ladd McConkey or Tank Bigsby. Ladd McConkey, Tank Bigsby is the second best running back mentioned.
Why would you give up Bigsby and another player from Montgomery?
You're not. You're at the end of the day, Bigsby is going to be a number 1 running back, even if with ETN returning. I think ETN has just like played himself out of his number 1 running back role. He's always going to be a split carry guy. And Ladd McConkey is just a catch guy. He's never going to like wow you, I don't think, game to game. And that Chargers team is just the way it's set up. It just doesn't matter who catches the ball. So I would say do Ladd McConkey plus Jordan Mason, see if that works out. But that's your best bet. Do not get rid of Tank Bigsby. I could see Tank Bigsby having a better year than David Montgomery in the next 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Maybe not overall for the season, but
I'm really waiting.
You just never know.
I'm really waiting for Ladd McConkey to start doing something because I do think he's the best. Like when I'm watching those games, he's the best receiver on that team.
He'll do it next year when there's somebody across the field from him.
That's
when he'll do it.
Just a quality athlete who clearly knows the game pretty well. I saw him catch a touchdown a few weeks ago, guys, that you don't see rookies make. But I don't. If David Montgomery is probably going to keep doing what he's doing, no matter how hot Gibbs gets.
Agreed. Good evening, gents. When do you predict CMC returns? How is he used, and how affects Mason and Guerrero rest of the season?
Possibly.
When do we predict he returns? Me personally, I think he's done for the year.
I did a deep dive trying to research this last week because it was kind of becoming like a hot button topic, and there's very little news from the 49ers as to when he's returning. I think the 49ers are just hoping that they can hold on to him until the postseason, that they can make the postseason without him, and then they'll have him for the postseason.
Well, didn't he visit like a surgeon in Germany or something? He visited
he has
surgeon, right?
This is what I mean by mystifying.
So,
like, did he?
So here's what I know about this, and here's what I speculate on this. He has multiple Achilles tendonitis. Okay. So Achilles tendonitis is not something you want to fuck with, because all you can do in terms of rest, and I've loved Christian McCaffrey for years, so I've researched what he does. If you go look what he does to train for the NFL, he does track and field exercise and training for explosive burst. What that does is it puts a lot of strain on your Achilles tendons, especially for somebody whose maybe body wasn't built for that. And when you see like the types of movements that burst Achilles, it's usually off the toes. It's those quick burst movements. It's something that I think him personally, he's just not trying to risk. Like, we know what an Achilles does. One Achilles sets you back a year. And the reason he has it in both legs is because there's like an instability issue, which, again, the only thing for tendonitis, if you've ever had tendonitis, I've had tendonitis in like 2 different body parts. It's rest, it's relaxation, and it's inflammation. So there's nothing you can do in terms of like fixing it. You can't like go into a surgery and get something removed or touched up or tweaked. So it's a rest and relaxation thing.
I thought he saw a surgeon though, man.
So he can see a surgeon for consultation in terms of strengthening, in terms of like, this is the same argument where calf strains for Kevin Durant ruptured his Achilles in like game 5, because the strain on that muscle makes it basically go into flexion at all times. And if you have this inflammation and these tendons are inflamed and in flexion at all times, it gives you just a significant increase in bursting. So what Richie said, it's either going to be playoffs or it's going to be nothing, because I don't even see like week 10, week 11. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I can't fathom this guy like risking, especially watching how the season shakes out. They're 2-4, man. This is the year from hell. Dude, Debo's got pneumonia. Brandon Ayuk is a diva with a torn ACL. George Kittle is week to week with a busted foot. Brock Purdy's going bad. I don't know. I just don't see it for San Fran this year. And even with the scheming and stuff, I think Shanahan is kind of mental pretzeling himself right now, where he's going like shotgun every play. He's not even doing his traditional like San Francisco running schemes anymore. Go watch a San Francisco game. It doesn't look like the same team. Brock Purdy has over 30 attempts out of 7 games 5 times this year. Last year total, he had 4 in a 17-game season. It's not the same offense. It's breaking Kyle Shanahan's brain, and he's going like, you know what? If they're going to make me pay Purdy, I got to find out if he's legit the dude or not. And so he's going into these like 30, 35 throws per game. And that's honestly, in my opinion, that's just not Brock Purdy's game. It's why Shanahan's kind of like losing his mind. He's going on his 3rd running back. He's kind of just like screwed him. He's screwed from the year from hell. I just don't see the benefit for Christian McCaffrey to come back, especially. And, you know, sorry for Clint, like, dude, if you're thinking about trading him now, what's the upside? Like, what's the upside? He comes back in week 10 and plays for like 3 weeks in your playoff run. Even then, it's like he's coming back. We know what players look like when they come back from injury. They need a couple weeks to kind of like get back into the groove. So best case scenario, you got him for like 2 weeks at the end, and he's not 100% Christian McCaffrey on a absolute shit team. Or you could trade him high right now, and unless you're like in a keeper league where Christian McCaffrey is like lost on your team next year, dude, you can get whatever you want for Christian McCaffrey. I'm more week to week. I am like, you guys know how I felt about Christian McCaffrey at the beginning of the year. Now yeah. I'm at the point where you got to just like, dude, if you can trick somebody into taking him, do it. You'll probably get like 2 legitimate starters for Christian McCaffrey. Like 100%. That's my rant. But I'm also, I have a vested interest in San Fran just being bad because I have a Kyle Shanahan fantasy on the Bears.
Well, I think what's happening right now is, I don't know. I don't know what the injury. I think that there's a possibility he's being told he could get a surgery that would end his season most certainly, or he can press this thing as far as he can go before the team really. I mean, I think the team wants to know if they're a Super Bowl contending team in their minds, they want him back this year. If they're not, I don't see him. What's the point of him coming? If this team ends up good, right now they're 3-4. If they end up going 3-8, what's the point? So the choice of Christian McCaffrey being hung up for the season might still just be a choice made for the hell of it. You know what I mean? That's another risk. Because if the San Fran team doesn't figure it out, why would you bring him back?
Yeah. Devontae Adams versus the Patriots. Odunze will be on fire this weekend also. Dennis, Devontae Adams is off to a bad start. They will force him the ball if that's how you feel about Devontae Adams, but he's also matched up against Christian Gonzalez, which had a good start, maybe kind of fallen off this year. I'm a biased person. I think Devontae Adams is just not going to do well. I think you can see like 3 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown, and that's 10 points, and that might be fine for you, but for a number 1 wide receiver, I don't think that's good enough. So that's my personal opinion.
Odunze, I agree with.
Odunze should be. I can't wait for this game this weekend, guys.
Yeah, I mean, this is just this is one of those games you got to just keep going in the direction you're going and building on what you're building on, because this is you played the 32nd, 31st, 30th ranked secondaries in the NFL, and now you're about to play the 29th, 28th, and 25th.
Yep.
And we discussed this with Paul yesterday on the show, and we were just kind of using some history. Are the Bears better after a bye, or are they one of those teams that kind of overthinks themselves? And I couldn't kind of put my finger on it or remember off the top of my head, but after looking into it a little bit, they are pretty good with extra time. They are good with additional game planning time.
They need health on their side. They needed this time to. They had a lot of players. Exactly. By the end of that game, man, Kyle Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, and who else left? There's Tyreek Stevenson didn't play. You need those guys.
It also gives you a chance for Ryan Bates to potentially come back too, so we'll see how that works out. Trade question: would you offer Tua and Tank Dell for Jonathan Taylor and/or Kareem Hunt along with Caleb Williams?
Yes.
Yeah, if you can get those guys for Kareem Hunt and Caleb Williams for Tua and Tank Dell, take that and run away.
No offense to you, Clint. Good power to you if you can get that done, but who the hell would take that offer?
Yeah, you should offer it. I would highly think that you would get declined, but you can offer it. Yeah.
That's going to be a really important piece on this team.
He had 2 touchdowns last week.
If they offered that to you, hell yeah. For real.
2-5 in a super flex league. If I could turn Mahomes, this is a big one. Mahomes, Jefferson, Njoku, Brees, and Dell. What the hell? Are you just trading teams? To Pollard, Neighbors, Josh Allen, Higgins, and Andrews. Dude, I don't know. That's like too much to even consider. I don't know.
Mahomes and
Mahomes sucks. Mahomes sucks, dude. He's an awful fantasy quarterback this year. Jefferson, Njoku's irrelevant.
And Brees.
Brees Hall's kind of irrelevant. Tank Dell.
He's been producing regardless of the Jets' woes.
Yeah, he's been pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about Pollard is mid. Neighbors is possibly good. Josh Allen, T. Higgins, and Andrews. I like the second team better, I guess, if I had to put it together.
Yeah, I like the first team better.
Yeah, this is just too much, dude. You can't
I think Nagy is, I don't know. I think Mahomes, even if he turns in a bad year, eventually he's gonna have a good year again.
Well, if you lose, put that back up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
If you lose Jefferson and Brees, because you're getting a lot out of those guys, I do think Njoku's about to start playing well too with James Winston, the quarterback. Are you getting that return basically in 2 or 3? I'll say. Do Neighbors, Allen, and Higgins make up for Jefferson, Brees, and Njoku? I don't know about that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, we're talking about hundreds of points, and it's basically a break even of 100 points per week, and it's hard to say that because you're basically just trading full teams at that point, and that's why I don't really have an answer for you. Like I said, yeah,
he said he also has Kieran Kyron Williams, Deontay Johnson, and Jalen Waddle. Deontay Johnson and Kyron Williams plus Brees Hall, Jefferson. Dude, you should be winning your league.
Yeah, no kidding. You got one more trade. Traded Josh Jacobs for DJ Moore plus a mid-round pick. Needed a wide receiver bad. Still have Kamara, Hunt, Hubbard, and Bigsby. Asked around. It's the best I could get. Dude, you were stacked. No, that was great. That was good.
Yeah.
Stacked at running back, and you got a number one legit receiver. DJ Moore's good.
Yeah.
DJ Moore's inconsistent because he's got a rookie quarterback, but he's good, man. He's going to get you 5 catches, 7 catches a game. But yeah, boys, we're running at like over an hour. So any major comments you guys have on sleepers or starters that kind of forecast for this week, changes to the league or anything like that? And I think we can wrap up this week's show with something around there.
Sure. Brandon, would you like to go first or should I?
Sleepers, like I said, man, I'm just going to stick to what I said. Keep an eye on all those injuries at receiver this week. If at this juncture of the season you're still picking off the waiver wire, those are the names that I think move immediately to the top of the list in regards to opportunity. And then Njoku, Jameis Winston, and Omari Cooper. If he's on your team and you've held on to him throughout all of this Deshaun Watson stuff, good for you, because I think you're about to get some return.
Oh, really quick, I'm happy Jameis Winston is playing again, because who doesn't enjoy Jameis Winston, right? Kareem Hunt, he's been used like a bell cow the last 2 or 3 weeks, and
unbelievable.
Yeah. I'm down for Kareem Hunt in fantasy football. All right.
How long is Pacheco? Is Pacheco done? I don't know the extent of Pacheco's injury.
I think it was like week 10 he could come back or something like that.
Pacheco.
But I'm so mad at myself for not grabbing Kareem Hunt because that would have been awesome.
Yeah, me too. There's been a few waiver, man. There's so many times this season for some reason, man, I've just ignored it. Like just whatever. Fantasy is what it is. I drafted like that. When usually I'm super active, looking at box scores every day. Just not doing that stuff this year, man. Got too much going
on. Pacheco is expected to be out another 2 to 4 weeks after his surgery 2 months ago. So
about week 10-ish.
I would be a little concerned. So if you're just riding the hot hand with Hunt, I'd be a little concerned about who to own once Pacheco returns because they do like him a lot.
It's true. And Pacheco has never looked bad. And plus, he probably want to.
Right, it's not bad enough to get his job taken from him just because of an injury. You know what I mean?
If I'm the Chiefs and I want that committee backfield, like that's 2 monsters in your backfield. So yeah. Buccaneers offense, I feel really bad for them because they literally had both their legs taken out from under them. That sucks.
It's not looking good for this season, man.
Yeah.
And that's their X factor. Having those 2 guys, that's what makes them who they are, man. They might start to plummet.
Exactly.
Oh, I see that big time.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I have to say for this week.
All right. Right on, boys. Thank you for joining us this week. We'll be back next week, come hell or high water. That's what we are. That's our newest goal, just being consistent, making sure we're here. Brandon, thanks for coming on, man. Thank you. I know you're strapped for time lately and just busy. So appreciate your time. And if you can join us next week, we will be talking to you guys soon. So take care, everybody. Yep. Absolutely. As always, pleasure. And we'll be seeing you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thanks a lot, everyone.